Hello and welcome to Estuary TV News with me, James Dunn. Today we're bringing you the show from somewhere a little bit different. It's Rowley Park Polo Club here in Little Weeton. On tonight's show, Hugh Richards will be talking to a couple from Laceby who had a life-changing experience in Cambodia. And I, of course, am going to be learning to play polo.
Look down. Easy.
Yeah? So today we've got a little break from the studio and we're bringing you this show here from Little Weeton, from this picturesque setting, Rowley Park Polo Club. And my first guest is George Carter, the Polo Club manager. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
I'm joining you, I suppose.
Thank you for coming.
So tell me, how long have you been running?
This is our second year. We set the club up last year, and the fields, as you see today, last year was purely just crops. You know, we've had them laser leveled. Everything's been set up now, and the second year we're reaping the benefits of what we did last year.
But is this something a lot of people might think that only people who live in the country can do? I mean, if you do live in the city, is this an option to you?
I live in Hull, so, you know, anybody can do it. It's not the case of, I live in the city so I can't play. Anybody can come and do it.
And here in Little Weeton, you've got a stunning view, haven't you?
Fantastic views. I mean, on a gorgeous day, sunny day, obviously not quite tonight, but obviously through the summer, you can see Humber Bridge, the River Humber, and you can actually see into Lincolnshire. It's gorgeous, very picturesque.
So why do you love polo so much? What's great about it?
It's just being outside in the fresh air, riding horses. There's nothing like it. The appeal is you can go as fast as you like on a horse, galloping around, having fun, hitting the ball, and it's a team sport. Most other equine disciplines are you and the horse. This is actually a team game, and it makes all the difference.
So tell me, why are you bringing this game to the KC Stadium? What's that going to prove?
The point of that is really to raise the profile of the club and bring polo to the masses. And to be fair, you know, with the amount of media coverage we've got, including yourselves, it's going to be absolutely big.
And so by bringing it to the KC, I mean, are you hoping for more members? Because you're bringing this country sport into the city.
Of course we are. Yeah, of course we are. I mean, you know, we're so close. We're 5-6 miles from Hull. You know, we've got the Humber Bridge. We've got the M62. It's a perfect location here, you know, and we're hoping, you know, we've got a lot of sponsors involved with this. You know, it's all going to be a knock-on effect. So we're hoping for good things from it.
And do you think that people in the city will warm to it? I mean, is this something that people don't think they can do, but actually they probably would quite enjoy?
Yes, and that's purely the reason as well. When you go to the KC, we've got guys here who haven't been playing long. Usually when you see polo on the TV, it's all professionals. And when you look at that, you know you can't achieve that. Whereas now here, you've got guys, we've got one girl 15 playing today, we've got one guy in his 70s. You know, it's open to anybody. You'll be surprised. I'm surprised that so many people are actually into it, and from all walks of life. It's open to everybody. You know, if people want to come down, obviously they'd have to come for some lessons to achieve a standard before they'd be allowed to play. But once they've done that, it's not a problem.
And if people want to come to this event at the KC Stadium, then how do they get involved? When is it?
Basically, it's the 12th of May. It's a Monday. The gates open at 1:30. It's free to enter, so they can just come along. There's 4 games on the day, starting at 2 o'clock through till 7 o'clock is the last game. We're also doing a party on the night, so if anybody wants any tickets, there's very few left, I must add. But if they want to get involved, you know, we're on the website, or they can just get in touch with us.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, soon enough, George is going to be giving me a polo lesson, but first, back to Hugh Richards in the studio.
Pat and Julie, thank you very much for joining us here. You've just come back from Cambodia, I think. Tell us, what were you doing out there, Pat?
Well, we went out to Cambodia. We were out there for 3 weeks, and we were actually looking for charities that we can maybe go back in the future and work with. Very much a fact-finding exercise, just to see where we felt we fitted in, what there was to do, where we could help.
And Julie, why Cambodia?
Well, Patrick's always liked the Far East, but it came up as just a conversation that we had with a friend of a friend whose daughter was working out in Cambodia, and we'd been in Thailand before, and we support a family out there. But we just thought, yeah, it just seemed to fit, you know, and when everything seems to fall into place, and you know, as we knew somebody that was from Grimsby already working out there, it seemed like, you know, this is an opportunity to explore.
And Cambodia is a very tough country to work in. It's well, Pat, I think you know something a little about its history. We're all familiar with the story of the killing fields and of Pol Pot, but just take us very briefly through the troubles.
Yeah,
in
that's
Cambodia.
right. I mean, Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge were in power between 1975 and 1979. And what that actually means when you think about it is that for many people out there, this is actually within their lifetime. There's a lot of people out there who can really remember it. It was a regime that took away all rights. They tried to take away any feelings you had for your family. You were only allowed to have feelings for the regime. And there's still a massive legacy from this.
Yeah.
And so people are very frightened to do things. They're very unsure of what they can say. They don't seem to have much ambition. There's all this is still haunting them.
What's the present regime like there? I mean, if it's a country that's 1979, Pol Pot was removed from power.
Yeah.
That's what 40-something years ago. What's the present regime like if people are still frightened to say what they think?
Well, many of the people who are in power now were actually cadre from the Khmer Rouge, and they were put back into power when the Vietnamese took over and overthrew the Khmer Rouge. So it's a very fractured society. There appears to be, as there is in most countries, an echelon of people who have lots of money and lots of power, and another massive echelon of people who have no money and no power. And it's really a great divide, and a lot of it comes, as I say, as a legacy from the Pol Pot regime.
And you were out there this spring, Julia. What conditions did you find?
Well, it was, some of it was pretty horrific, really. Very, I don't know, really. They're very nice and friendly people, but they're sort of faceless in a way, a lot of them. I think, you know, they're really struggling and really, I don't know, lost, I would say. A
destroyed tradition of individuality. So
yes, yes, I think so. Yes, yeah.
And Pat, what are the economic conditions like? It's a nation with great potential wealth, but is it realising that wealth? Is it a nation of poverty?
It's definitely a place with great potential. It's definitely, as with anywhere out there, there's interest from the communist bloc and also from the West, and money would go into it quite easily. But I think everybody is a little bit wary of the regime as it is. The word is that it's a very corrupt society. You certainly see people who live in massive palaces, or you go past massive palaces where they live. And that's within a few hundred yards of the villages that we visited. Village is a polite name for slum. Where people are living in poverty, their job is to go out and collect garbage. There's no running water, there's no sanitation. The kids in many cases don't have clothes on, and have to be fed by organisations, charity organisations, 3 times a week just to maintain a basic standard.
There's a strange phenomenon, a grotesque phenomenon to do with the high price of land, especially in Phnom Penh, the capital city. What happens there when people effectively steal land?
Well, it's again, really, it's a legacy from Pol Pot. After the Pol Pot and the Khmer regime destroyed all land records, so nobody has actually any ownership to anything. When the United Nations got involved after the regime, they brought in a system where if you stayed in an area for, I believe it's 4 years, if you lived somewhere for 4 years, then you could make a claim on that land. Now that's a great system if you're educated enough to understand it, if you're educated enough to fill in the paperwork, and if you've got the money to pay the bribes, which is what we understand happens. Nothing really happens without paying the bribes. So what that means is you can get people who are living in villages, and many of the villages that we went to were under that sort of threat, where they'll live in a village and then suddenly somebody will come along and say, we've claimed that land, that's our land, you've got to get off. And we actually met a guy who was living, he's a Canadian, he's living with a community which has been violently displaced twice within the 9-month period. Violently displaced means buses come along, everybody's herded onto a bus, the bulldozers come in, flatten your land, and you'll move somewhere 20 miles away from where you were before.
Polo in many ways is like football in that you have to get the ball in the goal. But as I found out, things are a little bit more complicated when you're travelling up to 30 miles per hour on horseback, although I didn't get anything near to that speed.
Reach and hit it. Very good. So the teams comprise of 4 players on each team, numbered 1 to 4. You'll find the number 4 is a defensive player. In front of him, the number 3, still defensive but more midfield. Number 2 would then be slightly more attacking, and your number 1 would be potentially a goal scorer. The aim of the game, purely and simply, score as many goals as you can.
But starting from scratch, there's plenty to learn. First of all, there's a special way to hold the mallet. Oh, and
We use the 2 faces of the mallet, not the ends.
which is a relief. And to hit the ball,
Straight arm, all the way through, so you pull the mallet back, eye on the ball.
it's a real workout too. You need strong legs to grip the horse, a good core to lean towards the ball, and upper body strength to strike it. But there are plenty of other benefits to this sport too.
Well, you get to form a bond with your horses, you get to meet new people, play with your friends, don't really take ourselves too seriously, so you have a lot of fun, keeps you fit. It's just a great sport really, yeah.
I was happy with my progress, but for now I'm more of a spectator. And soon enough you could be too when the game comes to Hull's KC Stadium. I spoke to one of the players who will be well known to Hull City fans.
You know, like you said, it's an inner city stadium, and it's a great opportunity for people to come and see the game and the horses in action.
Eye on the ball.
And as you can see, eventually I got going.
Oh, how easy is that?
And now it's back to Hugh Riches in the studio.
What can, I mean, it's brave of you to go out there, but what can a couple of people from Grimsby do about this? What can you do once you get out there, Pat?
Well, there's an awful lot of organisations out there that are working and doing good work. Whilst we're working with them, they work in an area of non-pen that we know, and we intend to learn some Khmer so that we can speak the language. And then maybe move on to other organisations, maybe Teen Challenge, which works with drug addicts. We're certainly interested in what our friend has done who works with the violently displaced.
Do they have a drugs
communities.
problem in Cambodia?
Yes, of course they do.
Is
There's
it
Drugs, drink,
There's a country of great poverty, but they have sufficient disposable income to spend on drugs or drink.
well, that becomes a vicious circle. If you
Yes.
you take drugs to take away the reality, and because that takes away the reality, you then have to do things that you maybe wouldn't want to be able to afford
pay for
more
the
drugs.
Yes, yes.
In actual fact, one of the most disturbing things that I actually saw was that there's an awful lot of glue sniffers, and they're in some of the bars that Julie worked in just across from the riverside. The riverside is probably the nicest looking area in Phnom Penh. There's a nice grass and trees and flowers, but an awful lot of people there sniffing glue. Glue sniffing is one of the worst and most dangerous
Sad.
drug addictions you can
Yes.
have.
Very
Yes.
dangerous. What can other people in this country do to try to help in Cambodia? Is there anything, apart from going there, which is not possible for everybody, is there anything that others can do here?
Well, we're looking at. We've been told by Molly, who is from Grimsby, that with these young girls, for about a sum of about £200, they could set them up in business with a barrow, and so they'd have a barrow to sell things from. And a lot of the girls are very sort of good at sewing, or they pick fruit or whatever, and so that would give them an income, and if they gave them some business sense as well.
Good luck with your efforts when you return to Cambodia later on, and thank you very much for joining us.
That's all right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
That's all from us. If you have any stories, please email at estuary.tv or contact us via our Twitter or Facebook pages, or pick up the telephone and call 01472 315561. Until tomorrow, goodbye.